What's up, team? Another episode of Two Friends Talking Shit About
How are we all
FPL.
this
I'm your
week?
host,
Andy, how did we
Andy.
do? Not the
We,
best game week.
not my best game week. I got lower than average points by 1 point, so that resulted in me making a large drop down the overall ranking. But that's okay. That's okay. I did take a negate last week. That contributed.
Ooh.
I have taken a negate again this week, and we are only 2 days into this new game week. So it could pay off. It
I'm
could be
down
terrible. We'll
in the
find out. How about
lowly
yourself?
bits of the league, so I got green arrows throughout. Got up most of my leagues. Above average score, -8 as well. I think just I don't know. I think it's some of my picks I already had came through, and I made a couple of changes which got me a few extra points. So I was a few points up on the transfers as well when all was said and done. So that's good. It's always handy to come out after a -8 with some extra points. So yeah, a decent game week for me. I'm hopefully trying to roll it through, but yeah, no changes that I've thought about yet because we've obviously got the League Cup action this week, or the Carabao Cup, or the Do We Care About Cup, or whatever we want to call it. There's some teams in there that we probably have players in our team, so yeah.
For sure. Well, where do we want to start? Shall we
I
go
think
through
let's
the
go through the
results,
game results and let's
the
go
game
through our
results, and then
let's
our
have a
team
chat about our
results?
differentials and see how wildly off we were. Right. So with
Yeah,
our
let's do
friends
it.
that don't know that there are friends at Live FPL. Um, we'll kick off with City versus Southampton.
Only one goal
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Haaland and no hat trick by Foden. Now, Haaland's XG for this game was 2.33. That is his highest XG so far. That is wild. So I've been thinking about selling Haaland for a while, but he could have scored
Yeah,
significantly
and I
more.
think the
This could have
question we
been a
need to
hat
ask is
trick
why
game.
wasn't it a hat trick game? Why wasn't it? Yeah, I know, but we're
Well,
talking
apparently the
the
Southampton
best
keeper
striker in
had
the
a good
world
game.
against. And I know it's Ramsdale, so he's a good keeper, but like, we're talking the best striker in the world. He should be finishing more chances than one in a game against bottom of the table. Um, yeah, I think we expected a bit more, even though City have been a bit off. There's no real reason. I know they got a few injuries, but City have always been able to fight through it. And to see, Guardiola sitting there with this 3 bonus points kind of tells you what kind of game it turned out to be. Um, but yeah, no Foden hat trick, no assists of any kind, no bonus points of any kind, not existent. So yeah, it kind of shakes it up a bit now because I think we are, as you say, we are starting to get into the Haaland's not necessarily essential. And if are we thinking about maybe like a Salah is probably another option, saves a couple of million. Are we going for a Salah Palmer Saka midfield if we can get that far and really downgrading? Eh, stuff to think about.
I think if you were to get rid of Haaland, though, it would be game week 13 against Liverpool where you do it because he's got Liverpool, then Nottingham Forest. But here's the thing, would you only get rid of him for 2 game weeks? Because after that, he's got Crystal Palace, Man United, Aston Villa, Everton, Leicester, West Ham. He's got good fixtures afterwards. So really, if we look at his next fixtures, next five, Bournemouth, Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool, Forest. Out of his next five, three of them aren't great. Bournemouth, I don't think is an easy game. They've proven themselves not to be pushovers. Liverpool and Forest, not great. But after Bournemouth, he's got Brighton and Spurs who both play a high line, right? So you'd think that if he was going to bang some goals, it would be those
You're making
teams.
me think, Andy. Yeah,
But then again, that's what we said about Southampton.
I think if you're going to get rid of Haaland, I think it's a now or a game week 13 until wildcard 2 kind of a decision. I don't think it's a 2 game week kind of a decision. And I think you're then investing in are we going to invest in like a Saka, a Salah, Havertz, someone else who's going to bring in your points and downgrading somewhere else, and like kind of gambling that your people you're bringing in are going to score the same as him. Like if he's scoring a goal a game, is that enough to justify the 15 million?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But that's the thing. If you get rid of Haaland, because I've been in the get rid of Haaland camp. Well, I've been thinking about not captaining him for a while now, right? And I've been really tossing up: do I get rid of Haaland? And when I look at the fixtures, you either get rid of him now to bring him back in game week 15. Is that worth doing? Don't know. Or you get rid of him after game week 12, where he's facing Liverpool, but then you miss out on Crystal Palace, Man United, Aston Villa, Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. And it's all the way up till game week 23. You wouldn't bring him in back then either. He's got Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool again.
I
So
think
it's
when I've
not
had a
till
kind of
game week
glance at
27
fixtures,
that you
I
would
can
bring him
kind of
back in.
get by and I make the transfer. So if I was going to get rid of Haaland at any point, I think I would keep him until that game week 20 period where he has those really bad 4 games. Get rid of him for a differential in those 4 and keep the money to bring him back, or use the wild card after those games to bring him back. I think
Yeah.
that would be where my gamble would be if I was going to gamble on no Haaland now. I think once I've wildcarded Haaland in, I think he's in the team now. I don't think he's one that I can
Me
move
too.
out easily without juggling things around too much.
I agree. I find Bournemouth, if we can get through this week, really it's Liverpool and Forest, which will be challenging, and the rest, they're not solid defences, right? And I agree to get rid of him. I think game weeks 23 to 28, 5 game weeks, I'm okay not to have him because you've got Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs,
And
and
that
then
one you'd
Forest.
expect
After
Arsenal to have
Forest, then
some
he's got a
players
great
back.
run
You'd
again.
expect to know a bit more about Liverpool's defence. We should expect to know a bit about Newcastle. Like, what are they putting out now? And see kind of what Spurs are putting out. Like, they might turn it on and go for it. So that'll be a good. We'll have some more information then, and we can maybe do the no Haaland gamble then.
Yeah, speaking of Arsenal, Liverpool, I won't lie, I'm very happy with this outcome. Seeing how we had no Saliba, Gabriel came off injured, he didn't play a full game, with no Odegaard, Timber as well. We've got some key injuries.
And I
I'm
think it's
actually
fair on
quite happy
reflection
with
of
this
watching the
outcome with the
game. I
2-2.
think probably a bit of Arteta mind games with the Saka with the injury because he looked fine getting off the bus. I think he's that's probably a mind game that we've all fallen for with Saka. I think the way they set out, I think he was always playing the game. I don't think he was a late inclusion. I don't think he was a late fitness test. I think he was this is the game plan. He was always going to be included. Defense wise, you did set out a good shot for the defense, and like you say, Gabriel went off injured. The extent of the injury we don't know yet, and then you also lost Timber as well. He came back in after a couple of games out, maybe got re-injured and gone out again. But in saying that, I think when it really shows that I think Liverpool and Arsenal are both going to be in the title hunt this year, especially if City aren't firing. They're managing to get the wins out, which is what City do. And I think Liverpool Arsenal need to be points clear before that end of late season Man City run that they tend to go on. Um, yeah, and I think
They've got a good run.
Arsenal did well. They got in front twice, and I think it was more of a. Had this game been at Anfield, I think we might have seen a different result. But I think it being at the Emirates does help. And I think those 2 injuries really did tell as the game got on. I think the defense got tired, a little unorganised, opened the door for Darwin and Salah to create that goal for the equaliser. But I think 2-2 on reflection is a good game. And it's 2 good defences going against each other and 2 good attacks going at each other. So yeah,
I hope. I hope
yeah,
when we
and
go
I'd
to
like
Anfield,
Liverpool
we're
to
going
have
to
a
have the
full
full
team back as
team.
well. Have
That'll make for
Jota
a
and
really good
everyone
game.
to pick from. It's interesting to see that you've drawn against Liverpool, drawn against City. So be interesting. I think that when we see Liverpool City in a few weeks' time, that will give us an indication about where the teams fall. If we all draw against each other, I think we could be in for an interesting season because that will put pressure on those reverse fixtures.
Yeah, massively. I'm very keen to find out. All right. Well, look, Saka's back. Do you get him back in the team? We'll see. Salah is becoming, Salah's been returning when Haaland's been blanking. Everyone jumped off of Salah onto Haaland. Salah went down in price, and
Yeah, and I don't know if it was
he's
more.
proving us wrong.
I know everyone did jump off and jumped onto Haaland, and they was returning like 3 goals every other game at that point. Um, I mean, it doesn't change what we were saying about Salah. He still looks older. He still looks a bit slower. He still looks a bit off the pace, and he does look like he's playing out wide. That none of that has changed. But yes, he's returning, and he's remembering that the last goal in the last game was a penalty. But this goal was from open play. It was set up by Darwin. But the game that we play when we have Darwin up top is very different to the game that we play when we have Jota or Gakpo up top. And that is more of a target man approach, and that does pull in the wingers a bit more when Darwin's there. I think you can see from this game as well that you can see the growth that Darwin has had as well. Like last season, that position he gets into for that last goal, that's a shot high and wide. And this time he has the composure to look up, pull it, bring it down, play it across the box for a tap in for Salah. So is Darwin going to start asking some questions? Like he's come in now and he's assisted in 2 games in a row. So if he's going to start pulling people in, could he become like what we wanted Solanke to be with his assists that he's not producing? I don't know. Probably not. I'm probably going to be no. But interesting to watch.
I'm staying away from Darwin.
I think wise.
I'm staying away from Darwin. Mate, this next fixture, Villa versus Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth is proving themselves to be quite a force this season.
And I think they've had a tricky run, and they've got City next. But after that, their fixtures are good. So I think if we've held on to a Tavernier or a Semenyo, I think it's worth holding him through the next game. But interesting that this time we've got no Duran, no Watkins on the score sheet for Villa. Not in the bonus points, just a bit of a European hangover. Don't know, but yeah, I would have still expected Villa to win that. And it's one of these ones that does it say more about Villa or more about Bournemouth? Probably a bit of both.
I reckon a bit of both. Bournemouth you can't discount. They have been proving themselves so far this season. Yeah. Everton versus Fulham, not much to say there. No McNeil on the scorecard, disappointing. Hey, fun fact, Young has been returned in his last, I
Young's
think,
a weird
4
one because he's quite
Gameweeks.
old to be playing. No, but to be playing in that wing back role,
He's not
he
young.
still can get up and down the pitch, but it would worry me that he might pick up an injury and then be out, and then you got him sitting in your team. I still think you go for a Mikolenko or a Branthwaite or someone like that if you're going to go with Everton. Fulham really seem to have dropped back off again. We were on them early. Not much happened. They got a bit better. They were doing some stuff, and they kind of dropped off like Smith Rose and the assists again. But the points aren't coming from where we think they'll be coming from, and they're not keeping clean sheets anymore. So I think, is it time to jump off Fulham?
Well, I don't know, because if you look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, Raul Jimenez has returned in 5 out of the last 6. Everton has just been the only one he hasn't returned. He returned against West Ham, Newcastle, Forest, City, Villa. It's just in Everton that he's blanked. And we jumped off of Fulham because of their harder fixtures. Like, I think I jumped off around game week 4 when they were going to have Newcastle, Forest, Man City, Aston Villa, right? But Raul Jimenez has returned. And up next, they got Brentford, Palace, Wolves, Spurs, and Brighton for the next 5 game weeks until they've got Arsenal and Liverpool, but then Southampton after that. So I don't know. I think I'd be holding a Fulham asset. Uh, Next 5 game weeks: Brentford, Leaky, Crystal Palace haven't been great. Wolves, they've had hard fixtures, but they could. It's not like they're a clean sheet
So who do you go
monster.
for then? If
Spurs,
you're going to go
Leaky,
with
Brighton,
a Fulham
Leaky.
asset, who do you pick? Over who?
Raul Jimenez.
I'd argue there's better people to have in the
What
team.
do you
I
mean?
think are you thinking you'd go with like a Haaland, Cunha, Raul Jimenez? All right,
Oh,
well
you'll
let's
have
move
to
on
see
then,
my
and we'll
team
come
when I
back to
show
that
you, Mister
conversation a bit
Sam.
later. So Chelsea against Newcastle. Um, are Chelsea putting something together? Like, getting some results out, beating Newcastle with a returning Isak at home. Palmer on the score sheet again. Jackson on the score sheet again. There's tempting options there at Chelsea.
Absolutely. Palmer we know is good. Jackson has been consistent. Isak is back. Maybe this is also time to bring in
Yeah,
Isak if
what worries me
Newcastle
about
fixtures are
Newcastle
good.
is no one else has returned in the team while he's been gone. So like, you look at it. Gordon maybe have
Nah.
picked up an injury. The defensive assets we haven't looked at. I'd probably be waiting a little while, but like, I'm now. I think we've all moved on Palmer early with the Saka injury. Um, yeah, so now we all have Palmer. Are we could adding a Jackson be a bit of a differential when their fixtures really go nuts from game week 12? Like that could be a good duo if they're going to both score like this and set each other up. Could be a good way to go. But again, they could do it Chelsea and stop scoring.
Absolutely. I think I wouldn't. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'd double up on
yeah. I
Chelsea. I
think I
think if
would
I've
be
got
at this
Palmer, I'd
point
be
too.
pretty happy with holding Palmer. Brentford versus Ipswich. That was a big game, and my differential Wissa. Yes, a
Yeah,
goal
he
and
was
an
always going
assist.
to try
Pity I
and come
didn't bring
back.
him in.
But it's another game where Ipswich has scored a few goals. Like three different scorers, three different assists there. And we see like we spoke about last week with Brentford. That's four different assisters in that team, and Bowman with a couple, Wissa with one. Like, yeah, Brentford's fixtures are still good. And I think we're looking at their attacking assets. They're not really keeping clean sheets like we thought they might do. I think anyone who brought Flecken in is a bit over him. But, and Boomer and Wissa, maybe another midfield attacking combination we should look at.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? You mentioned who's an alternative to Raul Jimenez, Delap. Ipswich
Yeah,
fixtures aren't
yeah.
bad, and they
One.
are finding a way to score goals. Yeah. This next fixture surprised me. I really thought Spurs had something going, but they had no Son, and I don't know if that's just
Well, we're
making
all putting
such a
quite a
big
lot of
impact in their
importance on
game
the
by
other
not
players.
having
Everyone
Son.
keeps talking about how Kulu helps the team and how Johnson is in their team. But if we're saying that the team doesn't work without Son, it's not a team to invest in. You can't have one player who does all of the work. They should have still won this game. Like, you've got enough good players in that team to roll over a Palace team who have struggled all season. This is not a result that should have come out. This really puts me off the Spurs assets, and I've got two of them in my attack, and I would really like to move off at least one of them. But there is midweek fixtures like we talked about, and I think that might change my thinking on whether I roll or I do make a transfer. But Spurs aren't filling me with confidence. Yes, they can win, but when they win convincingly, they do spread the points around a little bit, and we've seen that they spread their points around not to the players that we have, and then they go and do this at Palace. Spurs
I'm
be
going to quote
Spursy.
you: Spurs being Spursy. I actually didn't know what you meant. I know I knew what you meant, but I was like,
But
they
then
can't be
watch,
that
they'll go
Spursy.
and beat
I'm
Man
seeing
City
what you
midweek
mean
in the
now.
League
They
Cup
are
3
very
0.
Spursy.
Like, it just won't make sense.
Hey, hey Spurs, do North London a favour.
See,
Can you
I'd
beat
argue
Man
you want them to
City
lose so that
in
City
the
have more
Premier League,
games,
please?
more injuries, more chances to get tired.
No, but in
Oh
the
yeah,
Premier
yeah.
League, I would like Man City to be beaten by Spurs. Um, okay, Leicester versus Nottingham Forest, mate. I've faded Wood, and he is just crushing it. And here's your amazing call. You brought in Sells. What is the chance of a
I
goalkeeper
I
getting
wa-
an assist?
I was
Come
watching
on,
this.
get
I
out of
watched the long
here. Get
ball.
out of
I watched the
here.
little flick on from the defender, and then I watched Wood bury it, and I saw the assist come in for Sales, and I was just watching for it to get taken away. And when that final game of the game week ended, and we went past that deadline, I was like, "Get in!" An assist from Sales, two back-to-back points from Sales in 2 game weeks, a couple of goals from Wood. It was a great start for me to get. Really pushed me off. I was on 20 plus points with 1 game played.
Amazing, like amazing. Wood just keeps delivering, and I do want to bring him in, but I just don't have the funds at the moment. I'm probably 2 moves
Yeah,
away from bringing in a
yeah.
Wood or a Whistler or something, but we'll see. But here's the thing: Forest fixtures, they're going to start changing, right? They got West Ham next, then Newcastle, Arsenal, Ipswich will be good, then Man City. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
just
they have
depending
shown
on whether
they can
if you
score.
have the ability to hold Wood, but if you've gone for a Stewart or someone in attack and loaded your midfield, you probably don't have the space to park Wood for a week against City. But I mean, would you play him against City? I think I probably would still. I would.
Yeah, you would. Mate, your mate Welbeck just keeps on returning, but here's the thing. I mean, he's returned. Look, he's returned like Raul Jimenez. He's returned one, two,
Mm.
three, four, five, six, five in the last. He's returned 4 in the last 6, right? But they do have Liverpool, Man City, Bournemouth,
No, and
X3.
before the
So I
Saka
wouldn't be
injury,
touching
I was kind of looking at doing a
Welbeck.
bit of a mini wildcard game week 12, bringing in Palmer and maybe a Brighton asset, maybe a Wolves asset. So this is a game I was really looking at to see um, which assets I liked. There's not really a midfield Wolves option that I was looking at, but I was kind of tossing up just like Strand Larson, Cunha, Welbeck, um, and the other one that I've liked is Jorginho Rutter, who's there with the assist. Like he's playing quite well. He's very low owned, and he seems to be in that team now. And he does play in the 10 or in the 9 when they don't have a striker. So if we can see some return to form, there's a few good options at Brighton.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
the next 3 fixtures, they're pretty much as tough as you get.
No, and
Liverpool,
if you're making a
City,
move for one of them
and
this
Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth
week,
are not a
I think
pushover.
you're going for a striker who can score. I mean, you wouldn't put it past Welbeck to score against City.
Mm,
And Liverpool have conceded a few goals late, so I would,
true.
that I wouldn't be playing a midfielder defender against those teams. But if you needed to, I think you could play a forward. Um, but I think if you have to move now, you're probably moving on a Wissa or
Mm.
a Cunha or someone like that.
Yeah, fair. And then West Ham versus Man United. Oh, well,
Yeah,
did you hear about Man
he's
United?
on.
The manager
Um,
got sacked. So are we going to see? Well, are we going to see the
this is a tricky
new
one
manager
because
bounce that people talk
it
about?
depends on what philosophy. Because obviously, Ruud van Nistelrooy is now going to fill in as manager until they assign someone. Does he do something of his own? Has he been told he's got 3 games before they make a decision on the manager? Does the new manager bounce happen now, or does it happen after they put in a permanent manager? Does it happen at all? Hard to tell. That squad is in so much
Mm.
disarray. it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in. There's lots of options flying around. I've seen Zidane talked about. I heard rumors that they talked to Thomas Tuchel before he took the England job. So I would still stay clear of Man United until we see the bounce, until we see if you get someone coming in who you know is going to put his foot down and take that team by the neck and go. Maybe I'd look at like a Garnacho or something like that. But with a new manager bounce, you also get new manager opinions, which includes opinions on players. Does he come in and go, I don't like Haaland, out you go? Does he go, Bruno's too old, on your move? Like, the sweeping changes can happen with this, and if you don't get it right, you now have a player who's worth 6, 7, 8 million, like blocking other people, sitting on your pitch, not playing. So can be tricky to choose. The person I would pick from this fixture is Jared Bowen. He has returned in most fixtures this year, even when West Ham have done poorly. So if I was looking at a differential or someone else in the midfield who I think could keep returning, I think I'd go with Bowen.
Has he returned that much though? Let's have a look at his last few. So 7, 2, 12 against Ipswich, then 2, 2, 5, 5, 8, 2. Yeah, look, he has. He has. For 7.4 million, that's not bad. It's not bad for he's in that mid price point for a midfielder. So
he's not. But
yeah, it's
you
not
don't
bad.
always need an exciting
just
pick
not
to
an
win mini league.
exciting
You need
pick, is
someone who's
he?
going to bring in you 5, 6 points a game week. And what is he actually getting compared to Mbeumo? Like, I would say his points aren't far off what Mbeumo is getting.
Oh, bro. Come on, okay. I think that's a bit. I think we clutch in here. Mvumo is dominating it. Like our boy
Yeah, kid.
Sonic Mvumo is just crushing it. So Mbumo's on 68 points and
So
Bowen is on
fair difference, but can you
45.
remember the fixtures that
So
they've
there
had?
is a fair difference. Correct, that is true. Now, West Ham's fixtures next four are Forest, Everton, Newcastle, Arsenal. But then they're from 14, they go on a bit of a run until 18. Then they got Liverpool, Man City. So yeah, you're right. Look, maybe it's one of those game week 14. Have a look at him, but
Well,
it
I am
depends if
not saying we
Mbeumo
move
keeps delivering.
Mbeumo out at this point. I think that would
Hold
be
on to him.
very foolish to do. But it's just about from our points of view, at some point, for me to catch the points back up, I'm going to have to make some decisions that are against what everyone else is making, and can't keep making the same decisions because you're just not going to make ground. At this point, still a bit early because I'm still making ground with the very template team with just a few picks that I've got that are different. And we do have quite a lot of swirling injuries still, and as yellow cards are going to start coming into the mix, 5 yellows and then you get a ban. So yeah, I think it's a bit early to diverge a bit, but these are the kind of things, the players that I'm starting to pick and notice, because West Ham started very poorly. So if they are now, if Net Bowen's now starting to return weekly, people are going to go West Ham, no. And if you can pick that player from that team, similar to Wolves, but Wolves are a little bit more, it's quite widely publicised that they've had really poor fixtures, they still have had players returning. West Ham are that one that's going to go under the radar. Kind of like Yavardi at Leicester. Like, the team's not doing great, but he's still scoring in games. So those are the picks that you need to look at where you can take advantage on. So if you have a Bowen against a Palace and he scores 2 goals, and everyone else has got a Cunha at City, say, you're going to make some ground.
Yeah, fair, very fair. Speaking of Wolves, they did all right. As in, Ait Nuri, we both brought him in, and
Yeah.
he returned. Yeah. Well, let's actually go over our points then. Uh, I'll share first. So here's my team. A total of 61 points, but my 3 transfers -8 brought me to 53, just 1 point under the average. Were my transfers successful? I think they were. I went Gabriel to Vardiol. That was a even with a -4. I ended up ahead. Eight Nuri, Greaves to eight Nuri. Greaves was injured, so and on the bench, my other two defenders had 1 point each, so I was still 1 point ahead after the -4. So two of my -4s actually paid dividends. The only one that didn't was Saka to Palmer, but I'm like hindsight is 2020. I didn't know. I wasn't confident that Saka was going to play, and Palmer went up in price. So for me, it was like, nah, I gained zero point 0.1 mil, and Palmer's about to go up in price again, which gives me the 0.1 to keep. Um, so I'm not mad about my transfers. I think my points would have been lower, if not exactly the same, had I not made transfers. So I got 0 from Raya, unfortunately. 9 from Vardiol, 6 from Ait Nuri, 2 from Aina, 10 from Palmer, 2 from McNeil, 15 from Mbomo, 1 from Johnson, 2 from Solanke, 2 from Watkins, and 12 from Haaland. And on the bench, Rogers, Vandenberg, and Justin were 1-1-1. So I have fallen 300, 400,000 places to 1.1 mil, which tells me just how close the competition is right now. I heard some crazy stat how I'm probably like 5 points, or with like under 5 odd points, maybe
Yeah.
under 10 points away from my 700k again, and I'm like 15 points behind 500,000. So it is so close right now. The margins.
Yeah. All right. Give me 10 seconds.
It's
Let's.
my team.
So I had a relatively good week. Hang on a minute. I've
You
lost
had a
my
great
team.
week. It just makes me think how long can I keep getting away with this? I take a hit every single week, and it just pays off.
Yeah.
Like at least
Yeah.
breaks even.
And you won't know until it happens. All right. This is me. So I had Raya out for sells,
No.
which was my -4. So I've obviously picked up 5 points there. Raya got nothing, so that pays for itself. I have got Trent, Aina, and Gvardiol across the back line. So 1 from Trent, Aina 2, Gvardiol 9, Boomo 15, Johnson 1. I had Saka out, Palmer in, which did gain me a point. That was a free transfer for 10. Rogers for 1. Solanke to Haaland, captain with 12. And Chris Wood with 13. I had 8 Nori on the bench. It was between him and Aina, and I went the wrong way. Oh well, Semenya with 1, Gabriel with 1 on the bench. Interesting, Fabianski started, so no, I'm sitting watching him sit there with 0 points, and he's sitting there with 3 points. So interesting to see if that's changed anything or not. But yeah, so sorry, I've got my total points off. So I'm sitting there on 71 points, all up with the -8, so 63. So above average. Made some progress. Lots of green down in there. I in the end managed to jump up about 500,000 places. Yeah, so went from where am I now? Went from mid,
Huge.
duh, duh, duh. Yeah, to very high fours to very reasonably low fours. So yeah, great week for me in starting that climb. 3 back-to-back green arrows, 3 rises going forward. So get good week, and hopefully now I've done a little bit of a shuffle with the -8. I can not have to do too much,
Fantastic.
because that's only the 3rd hit I've taken this year so far, with second with a -4 and then a -8. So yeah. Yeah, I'm just
You're
like I
spending
said
too much
earlier
time with
in
me.
the season, I've played a game often where I've jumped on bandwagons and made transfers too early. And this year I'm trying to be a bit more considered, and that has paid off. Like I brought in Gvardiol when I had the extra money, and I didn't want to bring in Lewis because everyone had Lewis, and he's got back to back points. So yeah, I think the slow and steady approach may be working for now. Like it didn't work too well at the start when I was sitting there with Eze and Fernandez, who did nothing for 5 weeks. But we can't win everything. All
No.
right,
All right.
I'll
Well, what does your
show you.
team look like this
So
week? Let's
far,
have a gander.
you will love it because it's nice and boring, and it's the exact same way it was before. So pending the injury news on Wood and Gabriel, it's going to be Sells in the back, Trent, Aitonori, Gvardiol across the back line, and Bumo, Johnson, Palmer, and Rogers down the middle. Solanke, Haaland, and Wood. Haaland captain. Gabriel, Aina, and Semenyo on the bench. My thought process for this one is I'm still not liking that double Spurs midfield attack setup. So my thoughts are to I would like to move Johnson and keep Solanke, but I can't move Johnson to someone who I'd like to keep for any period of time, and I want to keep them to kind of game week 12 or beyond to make it worth the transfer. So I'm considering moving Solanke to Cunha or Strand Larson for this game week. But I'm also considering holding them both. I don't quite know whether I want to go. I've got a bit more of a longer term plan. I was trying to see if I could stretch to Salah, but I don't think I'm going to get there. But if we get to game week 12 and Saka's still healthy, I'm going to want him back in. So then there's a slow plan of moving. I think Trent is the one I'm looking at moving, but I think Trent's a very sideways move. I think I'm going to go sideways from Trent to either Robbo or Kanate, because Liverpool's defence has been good. I do like Gabriel as well. So between a 5-5-6 Liverpool defender, Gabriel and Gvardiol, I can keep two of them. Then Johnson eventually becomes Saka, keep Palmer, keep Haaland. And that's if Solanke moves down to a Cunha or a Strand Larson. So, yeah, and my plan was to move Semenyo, but like I said, he's Bournemouth playing well, and his points, his fixtures are actually okay after they get the C1 out of the way. So I think I'll keep hold of him. He'll be a bit of a differential for me.
Nice. So for you, it really is going to come down to what happens with
Exactly.
those two
Two
injuries,
injuries, and
that'll
we'll go
really
over them
impact
later.
what
But
trades
there's
you
some
make.
League Cup fixtures which include, Spurs, City, Liverpool, Arsenal. So we might get two opportunities for press conferences to get some injury news. I know we place people like Fulham and Wolves are already out of the League Cup, so we're not going to necessarily get too much from them. But it would be good to get some information on these players and make sure no one gets injured midweek. Because the last thing I want to do is bring in someone and like move out a Solanke for Acuna, and then Johnson gets injured, and now I'm sitting there with no Spurs and an injury on the bench, along with my two other ones. So, yeah, that's me for now.
Fair. Very fair. All right. So what do we have here? I'm going to do a reveal here. I've made three transfers. I'm negate already. I moved early, um, ma- mainly because I needed to move early to fund this one. I needed to make three transfers to fund this one transfer. So in the back line, I've got Raya, Gavadio, Nuri, and Aina. In the midfield, we've got Palmer, McNeil, Mbomo, and Salah. So I've
Yep.
shipped Johnson and brought in Salah, and I've caught the point
Bit of
one
a something,
price rise.
something.
I can't resist a bit of a rise. Yeah, a bit of a something something. And to fund that move, I've shipped Watkins, I've shipped Solanke, brought in Rao and Cunha, and Haaland. Now, I would have preferred Vissa, even potentially Wood, but I couldn't afford it. I've got 0-0 in the bank. The only way I could have gotten Wood or Wissa is if I downgraded Vardio or Raya and I didn't want to do a neg 12. So, but who knows? I
That could
might
be
still
next
end up
week's
doing a neg
minus
12
eight.
this week and be
Raya
like,
and
I could have just
Vardiol
run
and
Crystwood.
Raul out.
But anyway, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm only 2 moves away from a Chris Wood or a Wissa, right? So I just downgrade Raya or downgrade Vardio and upgrade Rao, for example. Uh, yeah, 5.7. So, it was between Delap and Rao, and honestly, I like Fulham's fixtures next versus Brentford, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Spurs, and Brighton.
Yeah.
I like Fulham's fixtures there, so I went for Raul Jimenez instead. Uh, and both Raul and Cunha are looking to potentially rise this week. Cunha's 70%. He's got a bit of ways to go. Raul is close to 100%, so they're looking to rise this week. So my team value has dropped because I took profit on Johnson and Solanke. So I've pocketed the 0.1 from them both. But I'm still on a 103.7 team value, which is cool. I'm nearing that 104 mark, and that's after taking profits. While I was doing this, though, what did occur to me was how good McNeil has been for me. He's gone up to 5.8. I bought him when he was 5.4. So I've made zero point 0.2 from him. And not just that, but his return. His returned some good returns for me. So I think it's going to be a sad day when I ship McNeil out, but I'm not in a rush right now. Even if he's injured, I've got people to come off the bench. So that's why I didn't touch the injured player. And I've got my captain's armband on Salah right now. It's been floating between Salah, Palmer, and Haaland, and I can't make up my mind. So who knows what it'll be by the time deadline rolls around.
Yeah, interesting. Good moves.
That's
I think
my team.
the price gain kind of puts you in the same category for the same kind of players that I'm looking at on results bases and that kind of thing. So it's very interesting. That we're kind of coming to the same players this year. Last year we didn't as much. But yeah, early moves are always a bit of a risk. Obviously, we've got no Champions League and stuff, but I'll just jump up with the League Cup fixtures while we're talking about it, because
Well, the good thing is Raul and Cunha are both not in the midweek games. Um, and the other thing which I was happy about is I did not have to sell Haaland because that was going to be my other consideration is to fund the Salah move. I had to sell Haaland. Now, there is a possibility at some point I do sell Haaland. I'm still not 100% sure yet, but if I sell Haaland, I've did the calculations. I'm going to have a midfield of Palmer, Saka, Salah,
yeah.
Son, and Mbomo.
So,
I'm like, yeah, that's a
League
pretty
Cup
good
games
midfield.
for
I'd be
round
happy
of
with that.
16. So these are the last 16 teams there. So Southampton Stoke really doesn't have any impact on us at all, which is tomorrow. Tomorrow also Brentford Sheffield Wednesday. You'd think Brentford could get away with a lesser team in that one, and maybe give Wizard some minutes so he gets some more time back into his legs. So they're tomorrow's fixtures here in Oz. So that's 6:30, 6:15, and then after that we got Brighton Liverpool, which I think both teams are going to put out good squads for this. So you potentially some injuries. Preston Arsenal. Preston with that 16-15 penalty win over Fulham in the last round. And you'll probably have noticed that I've had a Preston shirt on in the past, so they're my home team from where I'm from in the UK. So it'd be good to see them smack Arsenal around a little bit there at Deepdale. But I mean, with Arsenal's defensive injuries, I would expect them to play a couple of academy players. So it's always a bit risky when you have a high Premier League team playing a mid-championship team. They do often want to play smaller players, or sorry, I shouldn't say smaller players, like less experienced players, and it sometimes can come back and bite you, and you have to end up putting your players on. But I think we're expecting Saka to play, aren't we? Because he plays every frigging game. I think he'd play even if he had one leg, to be fair.
As long as he's got 2 arms and 2 legs, he
And then
plays.
you've also got United, Leicester. Not really too much in it for us at this point. Newcastle, Chelsea. Palmer's not playing their whatever league game, so you'd probably expect him to play this one. I expect decent teams from both. Villa, Palace, probably full teams from both, and then Tottenham City, full teams from both. So Spurs, City, Villa, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Brighton, all team we got players from all those clubs. Like Brentford, there is injury risk. I would expect that we might, if the injury is going to happen, it's going to be Spurs, City, Villa, Palace, Newcastle, Chelsea are probably the most likely ones. But I think the players you've brought in are pretty safe. You're just hoping that your existing players don't pick up an injury.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the likes of Palmer and things like that. But you know what?
If you neg
If I need
24
a
for a
neg
couple of weeks, we'll
24,
be
I
about
will neg
level, so that'll be good.
24. Oh, so good. So good. All right. Well, mate, we got EPL this weekend. That's always a good time.
Let's. Do you
And
have
let's see how
Let's
that
have a
plans
quick
out.
gander at the fixtures for the week coming up, and we'll. I didn't ask you this week, but you can give me a holler if you think of
Oh,
if you think there's
yes.
a differential in here somewhere.
Oh, so here's the thing. For a differential, that means
You
we
can.
can't own
It's
them
low owned,
currently,
is
right?
all.
Because Cunha would be my differential. Um, okay. Yeah, I'd say, well, what's Cunha's ownership percentage? Let me have a look. 3.4%.
Cool.
Cunha would be my differential.
Um,
How about you?
oh, would struggle because the person I want to pick is playing Liverpool, so I don't think he's going to do well. Um, Liverpool playing Brighton at
Wait,
Anfield.
who's
And I
Liverpool
was going to
playing?
pick Jorginho
Brighton?
Rutter,
Oh,
but I just
Welbeck.
don't think this is the game for him. Um,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go with Bowen at West
Mm,
Ham. I still think he can pull something out. I think there's a chance he
mm.
can get something in this one. I'd expect your West Ham have started rolling. Um, Hopefully it'll be a good game against Forest. A couple of goals both ways. So yeah, Bowen West Ham.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. Well, good luck to all. Uh,
Sounds good, mate.
let's chat next week and let's
See
digest
you
how
later.
everything went. Cool. See you, team.